Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach. A game around 2 years in the making and the most hyped up experience in the Five Nights franchise to date. Claiming to be the big finale to the main story of the series and wrap up the loose ends any previous games may have left behind. Teaming up with Freddy Fazbear at last to take down the big bads that are Vanny and William Afton. I was lucky enough to get this game on my PlayStation 4 and experience it myself, so today I will be sharing with you my thoughts on this latest installment to the Freddy series. Does it manage to bring the charm and wit as all of the original games? I'm really sorry, I can't bring myself to finish that sentence. This game is pure garbage! Upon release, this game was littered with bugs, glitches, and basic storytelling that really brings down the experience. From what we see in the trailers, looks 1,000,000 times better than what the final game actually gave us. And I'm sorry to say that my personal PS4 experience in awful graphics was only the beginning of this game's problems. But with all that said, let's see if Freddy's latest outing will be either A, a success, or B, become the game that puts even FNAF World's bad reputation to shame. General response. Credit where it's due. Steelwall Studios uploaded trailers fairly well in advance for the game despite its endless string of delays. But we were willing to forgive them because it gave them more time to make the game more polished and turn it into an even better experience. It really seemed like Security Breach was going to be the magnum opus of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise as a whole. When it was finally time for me to play the game, however, my experience could not have been more sour. I was playing the PlayStation 4 version, so I was aware of the slight downgrade in graphics. Little did I know that when I hit the new game option, I would be greeted with a nasty first impression. The audio for the opening cutscene played as normal, but the screen stayed black right through the intro, right up until we see Freddy in the mirror. Fantastic, I didn't even get to watch the opening cutscene. Great game so far. Also keep in mind that at this point I was playing the game on January 6th of 2022, almost a month after the game's release. By now Steelwall had already patched the game multiple times in just a day or two after its release. This is already a bad sign when you had to delay the game 3 times to give it time to cook in the oven and fix some extra bugs. If that wasn't enough, when it came to the gameplay, the graphics alone on the walls and the mirror and even Freddy threw me off. Never in my life have I seen a game on the PlayStation 4 that has such a horrible amount of graphics. It just makes me think that the PS4 release was an afterthought, just so they could sell more copies to people who aren't rich enough to get PlayStation 5. And fun fact, the night Security Breach came out on Steam, I ended up buying it, trying to play it, and being greeted by an extremely laggy experience. I could move the mouse on my mousepad from the left corner to the right corner and it would take 10 seconds for the mouse on my screen to go from the left corner to the middle of my screen. And in case you were wondering, yes, I did get a refund. What followed throughout the many hours of playing the game on the PS4 was an annoying 40 frames a second experience complete with glitches and unsatisfying graphics. However, I was willing to give the game a chance because despite all of these problems, maybe, just maybe, this game would deliver on a unique and in-depth story like all of the other games had in the past. Boy was I wrong. The story. This is easily the biggest problem I have with the game. Ever since the beginning in 2014, Five Nights at Freddy's has always had an intriguing and dark story to tell, with more and more lore to add to it with each new installment. Let me give you an example of what I mean in the form of a short history lesson. In the first game, we learn the robots are possessed by the spirits of 5 murdered children. But who murdered them? Enter FNAF 2. We learn someone in a mascot costume lured the children to the back room, and that someone is revealed to be a purple guy in the minigames. What was the mascot costume he used to kill the children? The very same one that ends up getting his insides crushed in FNAF 3. Enter the third game. Purple Guy is still inside of the suit he died in, revealed to be a Spring Bonnie costume, and has been moved to an attraction just to make it look more authentic. How did he die in the suit though? Back to the minigames. We see that after the events of FNAF 1, although in the same location, it's run down and abandoned. Yet the robots are still active thanks to the souls of the dead children still being within them. And as a means to clean up some unfinished business, Purple Guy destroys the animatronics one by one, while unknowingly releasing the souls of the kids he killed, and they corner him in a hidden room where the Spring Bonnie costume was left to rot. Purple Guy uses this costume as a way to either escape or hide from the souls of the dead children, while at the same time making a horrible mistake. A trap goes off within the suit, crushing him to death, and now justice is served. The children can pass on to heaven as Purple Guy is left to suffer the same fate that his victims had to experience for so long. Flash forward 30 years to the end of FNAF 3. The attraction Fazbear's Fright he's been trapped in for all this time has burnt down, presumably killing Purple Guy within the Spring Bonnie costume. However, this isn't the case. I could go on, but we'd be here all damn day. What I'm trying to say is that FNAF's ongoing story has always been very dark and complex, and this is displayed perfectly in FNAF 1, 2, 3, and 4. For Security Breach, the story, if you can even call it that, is this. You play as a homeless child named Gregory. You're trapped in a massive mall with evil robots on security mode, and a security guard trying to hunt you down. Survive until 6 AM. That's not an oversimplification. That's literally the entire story of the game. And maybe the story could have been better if it wasn't for the large downfall of Five Nights at Freddy's in 2016. Allow me to explain. I can easily say that 2014 and 2015 was an amazing time for game's creator Scott Cawthon and the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Things were perfect because of the intense story and how dark it all was. But unfortunately, like all the greats, what goes up must come down. And sadly, Five Nights did not fall gracefully. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present 2016's Magic Railroad of the FNAF franchise, FNAF World. This is where the problem begins. This is where the general public outside the FNAF fandom viewed the Freddy Fazbear name as a children's property, and my god was that evident in the forms of merchandise being sold. I don't hate FNAF World by any means though. Obviously, I wouldn't be making a whole animated series on the game if I did, but it is what initiated Scott's need to make the next FNAF game's sister location different than the first 4. He added point-and-click free roam. Good! Let's experience that horror as we roam the building ourselves freely. A whole voice acting cast. Incredible! Providing more opportunities for developing characters and their personalities. But what came next is what was not really welcome in my opinion, and is what changed FNAF forever. Comedy.
Exotic butters.
Who asked for this? Why do you need so many meme potential stuff and comedy in a horror game? It distracts people from the creepy stuff going on in the story and muddles up what the franchise was supposed to represent. A grim story of bitterness and tragedy. I can't focus on the tale the game is trying to tell because a joke was just made by the hand unit. And never is something like this more painfully spotlighted than in Security Breach, spewing out quirky quips at every chance it gets.
You better be careful moving around. I don't want to be crushed and twisted into a meat pretzel.
Please make your way to the front of the building, where you will be given novelty glasses, a voucher for 1 free soda refill, and where you will sign a legal disclaimer releasing us of all liability for anything that might have happened during your visit. Have an awesome night.
Hi, please take this map. Take a map.
Maybe if FNAF World hadn't existed and forced Scott to push the franchise to a more family-friendly audience with the kids joining the fandom thanks to that RPG bomb, we'd still be able to keep all the dark stuff the first 4 games had displayed. But as a game that was built up to be the big finale to the story, it really did a bad job. Springtrap's return was hyped up a lot in the marketing, showing it was an essential piece of the plot. But don't worry, it's not. Fanny becoming the next William Afton was hyped up in the marketing as well. But don't worry, she's not in the game for more than 2 minutes either. In terms of the plot, this is easily the weakest in the franchise. The story of Security Breach is just a hodgepodge of hot garbage and wasted potential. And need I even mention the ridiculous decision to have alternate endings? We'll get to those later, don't worry. The characters. I will say this, the characters of this game are one of the few gemstones it has to offer. There are some really unique personalities applied here, especially the main crew. Freddy plays the role of the one nice guy in a world of selfish people who's willing to sacrifice everything he has for your safety, which in multiple endings actually does get him killed. As Gregory is homeless in this scenario, Freddy is the closest thing he has to a friend. On top of that, he's so supportive of Gregory and everything he does, no matter how sarcastic Gregory acts towards him, and is even willing to take the bullet from Vanessa to make sure Gregory isn't found out. And while hesitant at the beginning, Gregory slowly begins to grow a liking to Freddy, and learns to trust him too. Gregory is pretty simple as a protagonist, someone who's just looking to get the job done at any means necessary in order to reach his end goal. I won't deny though, he is willing to do some nasty things to these expensive robots if it means he gets to come out on top. Even to the point where it shocks Freddy.
I can see movement through the walls.
Really? I didn't know Roxy could see through walls.
These are Roxy's eyes?
Vanessa, or Vanny, doesn't appear so much, so there's really not much going for her character. Just playing the role of a mean-spirited security guard, just trying to do her job, find Gregory, throw him out of the building and be done with her work. There is more to her character though, as we hear in some of the hidden tape recordings where Vanessa is talking to her therapists. But I won't spoil too much with those. Now as for the side characters, they're kind of hit or miss. First there's Chica, who's not really the foodie anymore but a guitar-playing rock star, who now shreds like crazy when she's on stage. But by night, she's just a robot that both eats and vomits trash for no reason. Yeah, there's literally no reason why she eats and vomits trash. Kinda weird. Next up is Roxanne Wolf, who, let's be honest, judging by the way she's animated paired with the seductive tone in her voice, was 100% supposed to appeal to the, hardcore fans of the series. Let's put it like that. But she does have a little bit of personality going for her. Sure, she's incredibly self-centered, but also ends up breaking down later in the game, telling herself in the mirror that she's not a loser as she slams her desk and is heard sobbing, while at the beginning of the game she's telling herself over and over that she is a winner, how much everyone loves her. It's a little interesting. Now here comes the big bad animatronic, Montgomery, who in the marketing is presented also as a reoccurring threat in the game, a force to be reckoned with, an animatronic that is really dangerous. However, in the final game, he ultimately ends up becoming a character that's only a small obstacle and throws temper tantrums every time he's on screen. If it was explained that Chica, Roxy and Monty were corrupted AI thanks to William Afton controlling them, as he does with Freddy later in the game, I would be able to give this some slack, but it isn't. These three are just trying to kill us because murderous animatronics are the norm of the franchise. Other side characters like DJ Music Man, the Pizzaplex bots, the wet floor signs don't serve too much of a personality and much of a purpose in the story, and make very brief appearances and, okay, I'm seeing a pattern here now. William Afton, aka Burntrap, only appears for like 5 seconds, as does Molten Freddy, who's now an amalgamation of a lot of different animatronics from different timelines of the games? What? That only ends up doing two things, screaming at William Afton and dragging him up into the ceiling. Moondrop was fun while they lasted, just being a creepy challenge that pops up every now and then, and Kellen Goff does an incredibly good job with his voice, as he has ever since Sister Location. Unfortunately though, not many of these characters are absolute bangers, but there are some decent gems here and there in the characters. The voice actors are a highlight of each character, certainly a lot of fun with each and every one of them, no matter how big or small their appearances might be. The gameplay. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, as if I'm not the millionth person to have pointed this out already. The dip in quality in gameplay has dropped so badly over the years in FNAF that it's actually starting to drive me insane. More often than not, animatronics would just stand idle in one place for like 4 minutes, waiting for them to do something. I concluded the animatronic had frozen and I could sneak past it, but once I step out from behind some arcade machines or something, or a plant pot, I ended up getting killed. Another problem was calling Freddy, particularly when getting chased down by other animatronics like Roxy or Monty. He'd walk at a slow pace when he was behind another animatronic, which wouldn't give him enough time to save me and resulted in an untimely death. This was extremely frustrating after this kept happening from 6 AM onwards. The fetch quest during Roxy's disassembly mission was not all it was hyped up to be. As the one official Five Nights at Freddy's title that built up the idea to destroy the animatronics at last, fight back, they did a pretty damn piss-poor job at executing it. I was especially looking forward to driving around the raceway against Roxy and throwing her off the track in a spectacular, action-packed crash scene, but no, that isn't what happened. She just gets hit by a test dummy in a go-kart, but it's in slow motion. Something that is probably going to become a norm of the games from here on out. And wouldn't you know it, this is something they actually had planned for the game, but had to cut it out in order to just get it released because they were hemorrhaging money making this thing. Wouldn't it have been more tense just to have it all happen in real time? Kinda like how the King's crash was in Cars 1? The silence was so stark after that crash, and the crash was presented in total seriousness, which is probably one of the only few good things that came out of the Cars franchise. This is the kind of thing they did improve by like 20% with Monty's defeat, making it fast-paced so all we hear is the crushing of his parts splitting into two as the plastic balls fall from above. The boss battle itself between Monty and the player was pretty boring though, and not having the ability to save was dumb. Oh, that's another thing! No save stations after 6! Who made this decision? You really thought it was fair to someone to replay hours of hard work if they died?
Anyone who saw that and let it go by deserves to be fired. I'm not trying to be mean, but come on, you need to lose your job.
What was the point of disabling them? Was it because you wanted the other endings to be harder to get? Don't you think you've done enough damage by making the game challenging enough already? The only defeat from any animatronic I was happy with was Chica's, because we have history with her character, and as revenge for years of jump scares and stalking, this is what I wanted. Crush her to bits and give her all that's due. The security bots were irritating as hell. They are just scattered in the most random places. They're not threats to call on the main animatronics, but instead just super reoccurring annoyances that'll look to get in your face by any means necessary. Music Man is as good as the game gets though. I liked this part of the game. Running around this massive area pulling levers while avoiding this giant enemy spider. And that chase sequence at the end as he hurdles arcade machines towards you, coupled with that music. Incredible! I will admit though, I feel like the way they utilized Music Man was a little weird, as in fan animations, perhaps the same way they did with the projectionist in Bendy 3, they made it genuinely terrifying and kept you on your toes. What they did in the game was fine, but if they did something like this? That would have been mortifying, but I digress. Moondrop's segment was a little frustrating and a little too difficult since it's the first challenge the game throws at you, but doesn't go on for too long so I won't harp on about it. Maybe it was just hard for me personally because I'm bad at navigating my way through big games blind. Oh, that's another thing! This game is huge! Like, too huge for its own good. I'd go so far as to call it the Banjo-Tooie of Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's compare the two. It'll kick your ass at every chance it gets, it's extremely long, it has an unbearable frame rate, features oversized worlds that no one could ever find their way around in, and makes you want to stick a fork in your eye when you die because you had to travel to insane lengths to get back to where you died after being pulled back to your last save point. But here's the big difference. Banjo-Tooie was released as a finished game. Security Breach is clearly not finished. We know this because there is DLC coming in the future, and that's all fine and dandy, but if Steelwall had actually left Security Breach how it was, it would have been the worst send-off to Scott ever. And while we're on the topic of how the game was finished off, I think it's time we talked about Okay, so I know I might have said earlier we're going to talk about all of the endings, but I only want to focus on the one that actually matters, which is the William Afton ending, aka the true ending. This part of the video is completely unscripted because I want to give full-on honest thoughts and opinions on this ending. And not just this ending, but what it also means for the rest of the franchise. So in this ending we're taken down to the old FNAF 6 location, so I guess FNAF 6 really did happen in the end? And it's all run down, meaning at this point obviously the souls of William Afton, Circus Baby, Molten Freddy, Lefty, Puppet, all of them have all been taken care of in FNAF 6 in the past. Except, no they haven't, because William Afton returns as well as Molten Freddy. Also incarnated with the rest of the children's souls in the molten body he has left over? What? This is already really confusing. The fact that William Afton comes back again retcons literally everything the series beforehand had been leading up to. Throughout FNAF 1, 2, 3, 4, Sister Location, and Pizzeria Simulator, we have been waiting for William Afton to get all that's due to him, a horrid, well-deserved dark death. His story should have ended in FNAF 6, but now that he's back alive, again, what does this mean? It means that it makes FNAF 6's ending pointless. It makes Ultimate Custom Night, his prison where his demons taunt him for the rest of time, pointless. Ultimate Custom Night was the hellhole that he built for himself, and now that is tossed out the window. Seeing him in the trailers, I knew it was gonna retcon FNAF 6, but I thought they'd have a really good explanation as to why he's back. But they don't. It's not explained. It's frickin' Walt Disney crawling out of his freezing chamber. That's it. He was hyped up in trailers with voice lines in the marketing. There were voice lines for him in the game that were cut out. I'm sure he was meant to serve more of a purpose, and it is so obvious that there was so much meddling during production that they needed to get this game out as fast as possible because Five Nights at Freddy's sells, and we'll make our money back when we sell it out. The ending doesn't explain things like Freddy saying, "I am not me, she brought me here. I remember coming here the first time they cleared the path." And Gregory's not asking a simple question on what is going on. William Afton somehow corrupts Freddy despite not being anywhere near him. Yeah, you try to figure that one out. And so we try burning him again, let's be honest. I quit trying in FNAF 3, he's never gonna die burning, we need a frickin' nuke to kill him. Only to have the whole place fall apart, Molten Freddy either kill him by strangling him or just taking him away somewhere else, we don't know where, probably just to the next FNAF game so he could become another baiting plan. Then Freddy and Gregory escape with their lives and leave the Pizzaplex, even though Freddy said that he needs the recharge stations to work, but he leaves anyway with Gregory because William Afton is gone, and this ending is ridiculous and remarkably offensive to all the people who have been waiting for some major story points from this game. I play Five Nights at Freddy's for the story. I don't care about the jump scares anymore. The gameplay should be fun. The story, though, is essential to me. And now I can make no sense of it anymore. Steelball thinks just because they shove William Afton into a game, free roaming into a game, and the ability to kill animatronics in a game, that people will buy it. But that's the problem. It worked! People have fallen for it! This game has nothing of value to say, no dark stories told through interesting visuals, all the love and heart that made FNAF 1 to 4 so amazing, and what Scott tried a little too hard to recapture in Sister Location, Pizzeria Simulator, and Ultimate Custom Night is all just gone. I really just want Five Nights at Freddy's to end at this point, because it might as well. It has nothing left. We will never, in a million years, get a conclusive, satisfying end to William Afton, the story of Freddy, anything. This ending was terrible, and was not worth the many hours of bugs, glitches, awful gameplay, terrible dialogue, everything awful that this game presented, and all of the hard work that we'd put in to get this 15-second cutscene was not worth the wait. My closing thoughts on Security Breach and Five Nights at Freddy's as a whole is that I find it now, in this day and age, a very unprofessional franchise. The quality of these games has been falling more and more ever since FNAF World, And I'm finally at a point where I can say I am no longer interested in any new Five Nights at Freddy's content. I'm not gonna care about any new games that come out. I don't care about the FNAF movie. I've given up hope on that. I don't care about any new books. I don't care about it anymore. I love FNAF too much to see it go downhill like this a second time. Because at least after FNAF World we were somewhat able to bounce back, at least for a while. But Security Breach's Stain tells me that this is a new generation of Five Nights at Freddy's now that is being catered towards much younger players. And it's just too evident in merchandise to get sales out before the game even came out. With Funko and other bits and bobs of sales pieces. It's just about selling a product now. Five Nights at Freddy's is now exactly what I feared it was going to be after FNAF World. It is a product of low quality mush that is only built to cater to younger fans because of the cut content of blood or any sort of gore. What made FNAF so special in 2015, 14, 16? It's gone. We'll never get that Five Nights at Freddy's back. It's over. I'm sorry if I do come off as incredibly harsh on this, but believe me when I say that I will not be covering any new stuff from the official franchise after this. I'm not covering any new games from the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise. Forget about me covering the movie. Forget about me covering any books or merchandise. It's all done. I'm finished with Five Nights at Freddy's. This game has left the most sour taste in my mouth as any FNAF game has before. I will say FNAF World is better than this, and I don't care who I tick off by saying that. By story narratives, this game sucks. By gameplay narratives, this game sucks. The corporate meddling is so damn obvious with this game. The overambition was ridiculous. And the fact that Funko and other companies tried to sell Security Breach before the game came out is just furthering... It's proving more and more that this game, this franchise, as of now, has been turned from a passion franchise into a cold product. And I'm done. I can't do it anymore. I will obviously continue to make FNAF content, like FNAF World, the animated series, and Obese Episode 10 and all that, but not official. I'm not covering that crap anymore. This series has gone down the toilet, and I refuse to be involved with it anymore. This game has done more damage to my thoughts on FNAF than any other game before it ever could have. The amount of bugs and dialogue and glitches and poor behind-the-scenes decisions of what to cut and to keep in the game were awful. And the worst part is, it worked. People bought it. People fell for it. People looked past it and said, it's a great game. It's the best in the franchise. No, it's not. Well, I'm here to say it's the worst in the franchise. This has no charm attached to it. When I get jump scared by those animatronics, I don't feel scared. I feel angry. Why? Because the save point was so far back, and I'm going to have to replay half an hour of gameplay to get back to where I was, probably only to die again. Retconning previous games' endings just for the sake of fan pandering and appealing to the shock factor is insulting. I don't care if you plan on patching the game 1,000,001 times. You released an unfinished game, and people bought it. And people said it was the best. You expected people to like it. Why? Why did people buy it? Because it's Five Nights at Freddy's and everyone wants to buy it. It doesn't matter about the quality of the game, it doesn't matter about how good or bad the story is. Five Nights at Freddy's, much like anything being sold nowadays, that's popular is gonna sell whether it's good or bad, because it's a known franchise, and people will pay through the nose to get any new content of it that they can. Well, not me. Not anymore. I'm going to stick with anything we had beforehand, and just call it a day. But my final thoughts on this game, it's the worst in the franchise. I have friends who like it, and that's fine, I respect their opinion on it, but this game tried too hard. Much too hard. If FNAF 3 didn't try hard enough with its story, then Security Breach didn't try at all. And I bet when I come here and actually point out the facts, people are gonna rage on my Twitter telling me how a horrible human being I am. FNAF's Security Breach is the best one in the franchise. I should kill myself because I don't think it's good enough. Yeah, fine, come at me, go on. Just prove how right I am and prove how you'll say FNAF is the greatest thing of all time. Because you'd be doing exactly what Steelwell wants you to, just saying that it's the best thing ever and making them make more content about it so you'll buy it and their bank accounts will just get bigger and bigger. Anyway, I've been recording my final thoughts for like 10 minutes. I'm done. I have been working on this rant video for 3 weeks. I'm just gonna go and put it out. Let's go, let's release this, let's piss someone off. I'm sorry, Scott.